We are living in a world where there are people who are living like that, and it feels really good to be able to maybe give them grocery benefits, maybe give them other things within the plans that we offer that are going to help them, maybe help their situation. The reality is there's a lot of people that are struggling out there, and most likely this person probably not as educated, right, to be able to make decisions on what plan to go with and things like that. And so it feels kind of good to know that I can be there in this business and help people in those situations.
That's why it's so important. Like, I always take the time to educate. Even if they're telling me they want a med sup, I'm still going to educate them about a Medicare Advantage plan. Why? Because they're going to be at that Thanksgiving table and they're going to be talking to friends. You know, again, if they're interested in a med sup, we're going to have a conversation about that, and I'm happy to enroll you in that. But at some point, they're going to be in a conversation with some friends or family members talking about all the dental that they've got and the vision and the over the counter, and then they're going to be wondering, well, why didn't Raul talk to me about that? Or I don't have any of those benefits. And again, not understanding the differences between them. So again, when I'm at the kitchen table or when I'm in their home or on the phone with them, I'm going to educate them about both. So that way they've made an educated decision as to what route they want to go.
What I would encourage agents to do is to not, especially when it comes to Medicare supplement, especially if you're not already someone that's very comfortable with it, get to a point where, one, that you understand things like that more. You understand that it's not that difficult to get it. You need to familiarize yourself with it because there is still a market for Medicare supplement. And then most importantly, like, don't disqualify, don't underwrite someone just by looking at them and being like, well, you're too old, because realistically there's still a market for people who are 74 years old. People who are older can purchase a Medicare supplement.
Yeah.
Hey, so we are back with Medicare Agent IAQ. I'm Raul Gonzalez.
I'm Oscar Ibieta.
And so what we did last week is we decided that we didn't want to stop. We normally do a 30-minute podcast, but at the same time, didn't want to put out an hour content. So what we're doing is we're chopping it up. And so we're coming back with part 2 of our episode about things that we've learned in the field. And so we're going to pick up where we left off last week. I want to talk about another situation. And there was a time, were we done with that?
We're done. Yeah, we can move on.
Okay. I received a phone call. I remember this and I'll tell you, there's some markets that agents will work in. And so again, we're specifically talking to field agents. So like I work here in San Antonio and I've always worked in the San Antonio area. And so the San Antonio area, there's the main county, which is where San Antonio is. And there's like 7 surrounding counties that all end up touching San Antonio. Mm-hmm. So we would always consider those to be the San Antonio area, like to be in this county. Those are the main areas that I worked. And in these areas, we've always had HMOs and so and even PPOs, and so it's very much a Medicare Advantage market in our market, and it's ever increasing as a Medicare Advantage carrier. So I will say that I didn't always have as much knowledge on Medicare supplements, especially back when I used to work for Humana, because I felt like they, and I'm not speaking for them or putting words in their mouth, but I feel like back when I was there, they intentionally had very, very overpriced Medicare supplements. So if people called them and shopped for a Medicare supplement, we would say, well, have you ever looked at a Medicare Advantage plan? Because they were so expensive. So being that I came from that world, I wasn't as well-versed in Medicare supplements. And so there's a lot of agents out there that maybe aren't. If you're in a market like San Antonio, there's a lot of these major markets like in Houston or Miami, and there's all these places where they're heavy on Medicare Advantage, heavy on HMOs, value-based care. You might not know a lot about Medicare supplements. And so this may have happened to you or may happen to you, so you got to be ready for it. So there was a Medicare supplement client that came up to me and they said, hey, listen, they're 74 years old. my Medicare supplement premiums continue to rise and it is way too much. I can no longer afford it. Can you please help me find a new Medicare supplement? To be real honest, at that point, they're 74 years old. They didn't look to me like, when I saw them, it wasn't like one of those seniors that like you could tell walks every day. Yeah. I'm pretty sure they were a smoker. And I remember thinking to myself, there is no way. I was like, you're stuck. Approved. And so I started kind of doing my research and I started looking, and to be real honest, like AARP is very, at least in Texas, they're very flexible when it comes to people's health, and they take people's health. And so you could have a lot of issues and still get approved for their Medicare supplement. It doesn't disqualify you. And so I was actually, I really was kind of going through the motions with him, and almost I was almost annoyed that I was having to do this, because like in my heart of hearts, I just knew that there was no way it was going to go through. And so ended up doing or going through it. And then, it's very clear when you go through a AARP Medicare supplement, like if they answer no to these questions, they submit it, but it seems like it's probably going to go through. And I was still, even at that point, I was like, well, this guy, he's on like one of these medications is going to be a knockout medication or something like that. But no, he actually, and he qualified, and he qualified for a good rate. And so, what I would encourage agents to do is to not, especially when it comes to Medicare supplement, especially if you're not already someone that's very comfortable with it, get to a point where, one, that you understand things like that more. You understand that it's not that difficult to get it. You need to familiarize yourself with it, because there is still a market for Medicare supplement. And then most importantly, like, don't disqualify, don't underwrite someone just by looking at them and being like, well, you're too old, because realistically, there is still a market for people who are 74 years old. People who are older can purchase a Medicare supplement.
Yeah. I think, if we add another layer to that, let's just say it didn't work out and he didn't get approved. I know in this case he did, but what if his premiums were, he told you his premiums are super high, and the way that the Medicare industry has evolved, it seems like Medicare Advantage plans seem to be more and more of a real option, a good option for people, even in some of these markets where traditionally they haven't been. And so let's say that plan did get declined. What does that conversation look like? Well, hey, we tried to get you on another plan at a lower rate, but it just didn't work out. Have you sat down and discussed your other plan options? I know you're paying $420 a month for your Medicare supplement plus your prescription drug plan. That's a lot of money that you're paying every month. When you add it up over the course of a year, that's $5,000-$6,000 or more that you're paying. Have you ever looked and sat and talked with anyone about a Medicare Advantage plan? Because every Medicare Advantage plan has a maximum out-of-pocket limit, and that's kind of in a worst case scenario where you may end up spending that kind of money. So that could lead to an opportunity. So don't be so quick. If you're an agent out there and you write a whole lot more Medicare Advantage than Medicare supplements, don't be so quick to have a conversation about a Medicare Advantage plan. Go ahead and honor that and respect their request, and see if you can find a Medicare supplement that at a lower rate that's going to benefit them. But if it doesn't work out, hey, let's talk about a Medicare Advantage plan. And I think that, again, brings value to you as an agent, because if you were quick to just talk about a Medicare Advantage plan, the guy might not want to do business with you.
Yeah, may immediately shut you down.
Yeah, or he may just say, I don't want to mess with that. I don't want to talk about that. But then if you say, well, let's give it a shot. And if it doesn't get approved, then say, hey, we tried it. Now let's open up a conversation about a Medicare, and he'll be more inclined to have that conversation with you.
Yeah, you're right. I remember one time being in a conversation with someone that they called me and they were like, before we start, I need to make sure you're not one of them Advantage agents. And I remember him telling me that specifically because I believe that I want to say maybe his financial advisor or something like that told him, like, do not do not talk to a Medicare Advantage agent. Make sure you only enroll in a Medicare supplement. And I think they told them that. And so they wanted to make sure. And so do you want to know what my answer was? I want to tell you guys, it was an honest answer. I said, well, I don't just sell Medicare Advantage. I also sell Medicare supplement. I think that a lot of agents will initially, like, when backed into a corner like that. You're not one of those Advantage agents, are you? What I encourage people to do is never lie. Like like you can get around that without lying. Be like, look, what I do is I help people find what's right for them. So if you are a person that only wants a Medicare supplement, then right now I'm a Medicare supplement agent. Yeah. That's my answer. Like I don't have to, because I think like initially, like, agents want to lie. My concern with that, well, obviously, like, just morally, I try not to lie, right? But outside of that, if they end up seeing an advertisement or something, seeing a flyer where you're advertising Medicare Advantage, then now you've just become a liar to them and maybe don't want to work with you. So, like, that's I am the agent that will find the plan that you need. Whatever. Yeah. If Medicare supplement is for you, then guess what? I'm your Medicare supplement agent. So
and we're out there to educate them, right? And so yeah, you want to have a conversation about a Medicare supplement? Let's do it. But I'd also, I do Medicare Advantage, and I'm happy to educate you on that and kind of tell you the differences between them. But if Medicare supplement is the way you want to go, then let's do that. So yeah, I love that.
You look at it, and it's there's a lot of people who end up enrolling into a Medicare, and they end up enrolling into a. Oh man, I'm losing my thought here. But they end up there's people who end up enrolling into a plan that had nothing to do with what they actually wanted or what they needed. It was what their friend told them. And so sometimes you have to navigate within that, right?
Yeah, and I think that's why it's so important. Like, I always take the time to educate. Even if they're telling me they want a med sup, I'm still going to educate them about a Medicare Advantage plan. Why? Because they're going to be at that Thanksgiving table and they're going to be talking to friends. Again, if they're interested in a med sup, we're going to have a conversation about that, and I'm happy to enroll you in that. But at some point, they're going to be in a conversation with some friends or family members talking about all the dental that they've got and the vision and the over the counter, and then they're going to be wondering, well, why didn't Raul talk to me about that? Or I don't have any of those benefits. And again, not understanding the differences between them. So again, when I'm at the kitchen table or when I'm in their home or on the phone with them, I'm going to educate them about both. So that way they've made an educated decision as to what route they want to go. And in choosing a Medicare supplement, they understand that the Medicare supplement doesn't come with those additional benefits like dental, vision, and the gym membership and all of those things. The path that they chose was a Med Sup, not a Medicare Advantage plan. But again, you protect yourself when you protect yourself in the sense of you keep that, the retention stays there, and they understand, okay, well, I don't have those benefits when they're talking to their family and friends because I chose to go this route. And they've got a Medicare Advantage plan, and I understand that if I want dental and vision, it's almost like I'm building this thing a la carte, and I've got to add a dental plan and purchase that, and I've got to add a vision plan. And so just educating them and making sure that they understand the differences between them, again, is going to lead to higher retention when, as time goes on.
Yeah, and let's address real quick the scope, because when someone fills out the scope of appointment form, they are saying, I only want you to talk to me about this. I only want to talk to you about Medicare prescription drug coverage or whatever it is, right? So if somebody is addressing me in that way and they're telling me that, then that's all I can talk about. Even though, by the way, I'm mentioning it to everybody who's listening. But I want to talk real quick about how to get them to fill out the scope. What I always would tell them is, look, this is a scope of appointment form, and really what it does is it gives me permission to talk to you about your plan options. Most people I talk to say, Raul, I want to know all my options. So they'll just go ahead and they'll check all these boxes, and then they'll go ahead and sign or initial. I can't remember what it is. They'll give me permission to talk about all of their options. Is that what you would want to do? Then I'll turn it to them and then have them do it. And I would do the same on a call. And the reason is because a lot of times people feel like I'm just calling to enroll in what my friend had. Sometimes what your friend had doesn't always make the most sense. And so in that conversation, if they say something like that and say, hey, look, I'll do whatever, I'm here to do whatever you prefer. But I will say that sometimes the plan that your friend enrolled to might not be the right plan for you. I think more importantly, they recommended me as an advisor to help figure out what might be the right option for you. But ultimately, you decide. I'm just here to serve you and do whatever that you ask me to do. Yeah. And so usually that's how those conversations go, because I do feel it makes me sad sometimes when I talk to people. I'm like, dude, do you have the same phone service that your friend has? Like, you can make some decisions for yourself. And I don't mean that in even in a bad way, but realistically, I think people get nervous and they're like, well, this person's smart, they'll make a good decision. What I contest is that they were smart enough to deal with a licensed agent that represented several companies and is going to make a good recommendation for them. So
there's a tactful way to do it.
There is, but at the end of the day, sometimes they might still be like, no, just want what my friend wanted. Okay, you made my life easier, but just do me a favor. If the situation ever happens where you decide that this maybe wasn't the right plan for you, would you make me your first call?
Yeah.
Okay, can we agree that I'll do that? Because then I can represent, because I remember I represent several different carriers, and I can make sure to get you in the right plan for you.
Yeah, and in those situations, when you get that phone call, I think sometimes agents forget to let them know that you represent several different carriers, because those are slam dunks, right? You get a phone call, hey, I got your phone number from my friend. She has this plan. I want to be on the same one. Done. Easy enough. Let's sit down and let's get you enrolled in that plan. Easy, piece of cake, easy sale, easy transaction. But agents forget to let them know, hey, I also represent several different carriers. So like you said, if the situation ever changes, I want you to know that you can call me. You don't have to go and find somebody else. I'm not just the Aetna guy or the Humana guy or the United Healthcare guy that helped you today. I can help you with a lot of different options that are out there available to you.
Yeah, for sure. So, hey, look, let's go ahead. Do you have one more that you wanted to go through?
No, if we're getting ready to wrap up, I'm okay.
I'll just share something that happened real quick. So I was out at an appointment back when I used to work at Humana, and I was with I was with my manager, and she was doing a ride along, and I always despise those ride alongs. Like, I hate it. Like, look, this isn't, you're not, as a manager, you're not getting exactly the way my conversations actually go in real life. So I always, because normally, like, if I don't have anyone watching me, like, it's just a different atmosphere. Yep. So anyway, I hated them.
I remember when you came with me on my ride-alongs, I was so tense, and it didn't feel the same. I felt like I operated much better when you weren't there.
Right.
So I get
you're not
where
yourself.
You're coming from.
You're not yourself. So I always hated him, but my manager went out with me to an appointment, and I'll never forget this one. So it was like, it just so happened to be that I got this referral, like, in a really, like, low income area. I'm pretty sure it was like the housing projects here in town. And so I go out there to this appointment, and so we're sitting there, and back then we had these flip charts at Humana where you would go through the presentation. And so I was going through the presentation, and, like, this place, it kind of smelled bad. It was just like it was a really uncomfortable situation. I could tell that my manager was not loving it. And so she's there, and all of a sudden, out of the air, just a roach drops, like, right in front of him.
Oh my gosh.
And so we both kind of pause, my manager and I, and he just wipes it away. And he just, like, continues the conversation. He's, like, telling us that it was in the middle of me asking him a question. It just drops. And I'm like, so tell me about your doctors. You like them? Yeah, I like my doctors, while he's wiping it away. And it's just, like, there. And all of a sudden, like, so I'm about to flip the page, and all of a sudden another one jumps on the presentation as I'm flipping it. So I have to do the same thing. I have to wipe it away, and it's just like, man. So what did I learn from that? Absolutely nothing. But it's really fun. It's like, you know what? But you know what? Here's what we learned, right? We are living in a world where there are people who are living like that, and it feels really good to be able to maybe give them grocery benefits, maybe give them other things within the plans that we offer that are going to help them, maybe help their situation. The reality is there's a lot of people that are struggling out there, and most likely this person probably not as educated, right, to be able to make decisions on what plan to go with and things like that. And so it feels kind of good to know that I can be there in this business and help people in those situations. Would you agree with that?
Oh yeah, that's what I love about this business is I tell people we're not selling luxury products or anything like that. What we're doing, it's a genuine business, and this is people's livelihood. These are people's livelihoods, their daily lives, decisions, doctor's appointments, prescriptions, all those things. We're helping them navigate this confusing Medicare maze, and it feels good to be able to sit with somebody and advise them and put them in a place where it's going to put them in a better situation.
Yeah, and you may never see the impact that you have fully, right? Like we may never see it. I know that my grandfather, he passed away in November, and he was on a health plan with a emergency response system. And I remember maybe 6 weeks before before he passed, he was by himself and he fell, and he was able to hit the emergency response button. And so it's things like that. You're doing things, you're impacting seniors' lives. You're impacting, even if it's not today, even if it's 15 years from now, you've enrolled them in a strong plan. You're impacting their lives. So that's why we do what we do, and we're hoping to impact the lives of seniors, hoping to help them. So. And do you have anything else that we should run through?
No. I think as we wrap up, I think one of the big takeaway from this is, we told some stories and we shared some lessons, some of them funny, some of them, more serious. But I think the important thing is you got to get out there and you've got to get in front of people. And the only way that you're going to get better in this business is by putting yourself in more and more different situations, and you learn from each situation, each appointment, each encounter that you have with an individual, and you start to stack these little blocks of knowledge. Before you know it, you've got this big, beautiful home.
And you're an experienced agent at that point, and it feels really good to know. And then you're helping other people who are going through the same things.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea, kind of when we decided to do this podcast, we actually had one just for our agents for like a year and a half before we started this podcast. And the idea is that one of our agents, we'd all gotten together at like a happy hour just to, after AEP or something. And this one agent was asking another agent who's very successful, hey, tell me about what you do. And so like the idea of it was just like some agents hanging around, having a beer, although I'm not drinking a beer if you are, but it's like this idea that we're just kind of hanging around and we're having real conversation that leads to getting more knowledge. Because I remember that day, he was like, man, I felt like I got more out of that than I do out of a meeting. And I was like, hey, you know what? That's a great idea. Yeah. So I'm hoping that today some of our experiences have helped educate some of the agents out there listening. So until next time, just get out there and create some activity.